So the boss is back. So something I saw on Instagram yesterday from a good friend, someone who was coaching me, is 5 pounds of muscle versus 5 pounds of fat. So we can clearly see the difference here is obviously 5 pounds of fat, is much larger than 5 pounds of muscle. Muscle is lean muscle tissue added onto the body. So it's easy to escalate weight and add on fat rather than it is to escalate weight and add on 5 pounds of muscle, if that makes sense, if you get my drift here. So, putting on 15 pounds post show, 15 pounds post shoot, and thinking, yeah, it's bulking season, I'm adding muscle. You're not, you're adding body fat. And take this from someone, myself, I was 132 kilos. I am now 116 kilos, 16 kilos lighter this morning, and I'm still moving load as I was moving when I was 132. And that has simply showed me is I was just carrying body fat. Because ultimately, a bigger muscle is a stronger muscle. My strength hasn't dipped, my strength hasn't plateaued. I am lighter and probably carrying the same muscle mass because I'm able to perform the same lifts. So yes, there is a phase where we will add on, 6 to 10 pounds post-show, 6 to 10 pounds post-diet phase. But, don't chase the scales. In essence is, in my head, when you work with me, I've got a rough estimate I want us to put on. But don't chase getting heavy too quickly. 1, take it from myself, blood pressure will rise. 2, fatigue will creep in. And fatigue, when that starts to creep in, lifts start to go backwards. And 3, cardiovascular endurance when training and performing at our top altitude, when we're performing sets, will drop. We ultimately are not performing to the best of our ability. And, progress is not just body weight via the scales. Progress to me is looking at your logbook. Has this lift got better this week? Has this lift been performed better this week? Have I slowed down the way I perform this movement? We're not escalating weight. We're not aiming on just escalating weight. Obviously, we do want to progress lifts, but again, this can be done in a slower rate of progress rather than just adding on pounds of fat. As you can see here, there's more fat than there is muscle and they weigh the same. So ultimately, it's not about getting heavy. It's not about getting lethargic. It's not about getting too heavy where you're gassed out in the gym. So do you remember, in a muscle building phase, off-season phase, reverse diet phase, post-shoot phase, it's not about getting heavy too quickly because you will accumulate fat. It might look great, you might look full for a few weeks, but you will accumulate fat. If you accumulate fat, you'll just have to start dieting earlier. I stay relatively lean all year round, and my metric for adding on tissue and then pushing my weight up is have my lifts stalled. Because ultimately, progression in the gym is what means the most for me, not looking at the scales and feeding my ego. I used to look at the scales and feed my ego. I don't give a shit anymore. It's all about how much clean muscle tissue can we add rather than how much fat we can add and think it's muscle tissue because it looks great on our physique. We look great in a t-shirt. Ultimately, we want to add clean tissue. We want a healthier push-up phase. We don't want blood pressure to escalate through the roof. We want to keep things nice and healthy. I'm a massive advocate on blood pressure now. Especially in a bulking phase, we want to keep that in range. 5 pounds of muscle versus 5 pounds of fat. You can see it here. It's harder to add on 5 pounds of lean muscle. So don't escalate that weight thinking, yeah, man, 20 pounds heavier, I've got loads of muscle. It's probably not the case. There's no, don't rush the push-up phase. Do not rush the push-up phase. Ultimately, the leaner you stay in the off-season, the better. Leptin levels will be better. Everything will be absolutely better. So do not rush the process, in my opinion. And let's not add on fat too quickly, especially post-show. Eat the world, bulking, bro, bulking. It's not the way it goes. Obviously, sometimes when you are heavier, you are stronger. But we need to find that happy balance and that happy medium.